You think the government has a plan for zombies. They don't. They have plans for disease outbreaks. They have plans for riots. Zombies are both at once, and that breaks every protocol they rely on. When the dead start walking, the government doesn't save you. Welcome to Outbreak Files. Today, we're breaking down how the government would actually respond to a zombie outbreak. Let's start with our first phase. Phase 1, misidentification. Someone calls 911. There's a man attacking people, and he won't stop. Police respond to what they think is a violent assault or someone on drugs. Standard protocol. Officers arrive. Attempt to subdue the attacker with commands, then taser, then potentially lethal force if necessary. Except the attacker doesn't respond to commands, doesn't react to the taser, takes multiple gunshots, and keeps moving. Officers are confused. Their training didn't cover subject continues, attacking after being shot in the chest. They might eventually land headshots by accident, or they retreat and call for backup. The report goes up the chain. Unresponsive, violent subject, possibly on PCP or bath salts, required lethal force. No one's saying zombie, because that's insane. They're fitting this into existing categories. Drug-induced psychosis, mental health crisis, bath salts case, like Miami 2012. It's very important to file things correctly, even when those things are eating people. Hour 6 to 12, more incidents are being reported. Different locations, same description. Violent individuals, unresponsive to pain, attacking people, requiring extreme force to stop. Police departments are comparing notes. Hospitals are receiving bite victims and victims who were attacked. But there's no central system connecting all this data in real time. Police in one precinct don't automatically know what's happening in another precinct. Hospitals aren't sharing patient information across systems due to privacy laws. The pattern exists, but no one's seeing the full picture yet. HIPAA is really committed to protecting patient privacy, even when the patient is technically dead and biting nurses. Some doctors are noticing unusual symptoms in bite victims: rapid infection, fever, aggressive behavior. They're reporting this as a potential disease outbreak. Now, you've got two parallel tracks: law enforcement treating this as a violent crime wave, and health officials treating this as an infectious disease. Nobody's connecting them yet, because interagency communication is basically a group project where nobody reads the shared doc. Hour 12 to 48, health officials finally flagged this to the CDC. Unknown infection, causing violent behavior, transmitted through bites, short incubation period. The CDC activates disease outbreak protocols. They send teams to collect samples, interview patients, analyze the pathogen. This takes time, days, not hours. They need to identify the infectious agent, understand transmission vectors, develop testing protocols. Meanwhile, the infection is doubling in the population every few hours. It's a race between exponential growth and bureaucratic procedure. Spoiler: bureaucracy loses. The CDC issues preliminary guidance. Avoid contact with symptomatic individuals. Seek medical attention if bitten. Practice good hygiene. Standard disease outbreak advice that's completely inadequate for zombies, but it's all they can recommend without knowing what they're actually dealing with. Wash your hands is great advice until the thing you're washing off is trying to eat your hands. Day 2. This is too big to ignore. Multiple cities reporting incidents. Hospitals overwhelmed. Police departments requesting National Guard support. The federal government activates emergency response protocols, except there's immediate conflict over which protocols apply. Is this a public health emergency under HHS? A national security threat under DHS? A civil unrest situation requiring DOD involvement? Each agency has different authority, different procedures, different chains of command. Meetings happen, conference calls, interagency coordination attempts. Every hour spent coordinating is an hour the infection spreads unchecked. And they're still not calling it zombies. They're calling it an aggressive pathogen causing violent behavior, because officially, acknowledging zombies sounds insane. Can't have that in the official minutes. Your survival odds during phase 1, 80%, because the outbreak is still localized, but official guidance ranges from useless to actively harmful, and the window to escape is closing fast. Phase 2, failed containment. Day 2 and 3, the government decides to quarantine affected areas. Standard pandemic protocol: lock down the zone, prevent movement in or out, contain the spread while treating or neutralizing the infected. Problems immediately. Zombies don't respect quarantine boundaries. They don't understand orders to stay inside. They're constantly trying to breach containment, and they only need to succeed once to spread infection to the next area. Meanwhile, uninfected people trapped inside quarantine zones are panicking and trying to escape, which breaks containment from the inside. Turns out, "Please stay in the death zone" isn't as persuasive as planners hoped. Military and National Guard are deployed to enforce quarantine perimeters. Their rules of engagement are unclear. Can they shoot civilians trying to leave the zone? What if those civilians aren't infected? What if they can't tell who's infected? Soldiers are making split-second decisions with inadequate information, and people are dying from both infected attacks and military responses. The legal briefing on this will be fascinating, if anyone survives to write it. Day 3 to 5. Simultaneously with quarantine, there are evacuation orders for surrounding areas. Evacuate to designated safe zones. Millions of people get the same instruction at the same time. Roads become parking lots within hours. Gridlock. Accidents. People abandoning vehicles and walking. And infected are spreading through the traffic jams faster than anyone can move. The safe zones aren't ready. They were supposed to be schools, stadiums, convention centers that could hold large populations, but they don't have supplies pre-positioned, don't have security established, don't have medical facilities. They're just big empty buildings where desperate people are clustering, which makes them perfect targets for infection spread. Safe Zone is doing a lot of optimistic heavy lifting here. Evacuation routes become death traps. People stuck in traffic are sitting targets. Those who make it to safe zones find chaos. No organization, no supplies, no security. These zones become infected within 24 hours of opening because screening is inadequate, and one infected person in a crowd of thousands spreads exponentially. It's like a festival, except instead of terrible music, you get death. Day 5 to 7. Military forces are trying to fight zombies using tactics designed for human enemies. Shoot center mass, suppressive fire, standard combat doctrine. Except zombies don't take cover, don't retreat under fire, and don't stop unless you hit the head. Ammunition expenditure is massive. Units are going through their entire load in single engagements. Resupply can't keep up, and they're learning too slowly that headshots are necessary, which means they're wasting ammunition while being overrun. The after-action report on why we shot one zombie 47 times is going to be embarrassing. Official channels are contradicting each other. Local authorities say shelter in place. State says evacuate. Federal guidance depends on which agency you're listening to. CDC says avoid infected. DHS says report to checkpoints. DoD says stay away from military operations. Nobody knows who to trust, so people follow instincts, get to family, or get away from danger. This creates mass, unauthorized movement that spreads infection faster than any official evacuation could. Highways become one-way tickets to nowhere, packed with people following advice that was obsolete before it was issued. Media makes it worse. 24-hour news showing the most dramatic footage on loop. Speculation. Panic. Some outlets are calling them zombies now. Others are still using infected individuals, like corporate jargon will make decomposing corpses sound less terrifying. The president hasn't addressed the nation yet, because advisors can't agree on whether to say zombie or aggressively reanimated persons. The focus groups are still out. When the address finally comes, it's a masterpiece of bureaucratic uselessness. Phrases like situation is fluid and taking all necessary precautions, while cities are literally burning in the background. It doesn't match what people are seeing, so they stop listening. Official communication becomes irrelevant within a week because reality on the ground moves faster than press releases. Day 7 to 10. Government response requires supplies, food, water, medical equipment, ammunition, fuel. These move through logistics networks that are collapsing in real time. Truck drivers aren't showing up. They're protecting families. Warehouses are being looted before military can secure them. Fuel distribution is failing because tanker drivers looked at their route through infected territory and said absolutely not. Military units are running critically low on ammunition with no resupply coming. They're firing thousands of rounds per engagement because they're still learning that center mass doesn't work. FEMA distribution centers are opening without supplies to distribute. It's like showing up to a restaurant that has menus but no food. Technically open, functionally useless. The logistics apparatus that makes modern government possible is falling apart because it depends on thousands of people doing unglamorous jobs, and those people are choosing survival over duty. Can't blame them. Die delivering supplies isn't in anyone's job description. The employee handbook was unclear on this scenario. Day 10 to 14. Here's where it gets really bad. Government employees are human. They have families. They have survival instincts. When the choice is manning a checkpoint versus protecting your children, most people choose family every single time. Desertion rates spike across all levels. Police stop reporting for duty. National Guard units dissolve as soldiers just leave. FEMA workers abandon posts mid-shift. Even command-level officers are disappearing. That colonel who was coordinating regional response, he's gone, left a note saying, "Good luck," and drove toward his family's location. It's the world's worst resignation letter. The organizational response isn't failing because zombies overran it. It's failing because humans running it are leaving. Command chains break, communication stops. Units that were supposed to hold positions retreat without orders because there's no one left to give orders. The organized response becomes scattered pockets of people still following protocols while everyone else moved to pure survival mode. And here's the kicker. You can't even blame them. Official policy says, stay at your post. Human nature says protect your family. Human nature wins every time. The government assumed people would be heroes. Turns out most people are just people, and people prioritize differently when their children are in danger. Your survival odds during Phase 2, 40% because official response is actively dangerous. Quarantine zones are death traps. Evacuation routes are gridlocked, and those safe zones are infected within 48 hours of opening. Phase 3, complete collapse. Week 2 to 3. What's left of government retreats to the most secure facilities they have. Military bases, bunkers, installations designed to survive nuclear war. These locations lock down hard. No more accepting civilians. No more rescue operations. Pure survival mode. Government continuity plans activate. Key officials get evacuated to secure locations. Congress, cabinet members, military leadership, they're pulled out of the crisis zone to preserve government function. Which sounds noble until you realize decision makers are now physically separated from the disaster they're trying to manage, making decisions based on reports that are hours or days old. Managing from the bunker is like managing by email. Technically possible, practically useless. From their secure bunkers, officials are still issuing orders, but there's no one left to carry them out. Radio broadcasts continue with official instructions, but they're catastrophically out of date. Report to evacuation centers when those centers were overrun 5 days ago. Maintain quarantine protocols when there's no one left to enforce them. It's like getting directions from a GPS that's showing yesterday's map. Week 3 to 4. Federal response fragments into regional responses. West Coast does one thing, East Coast does another. Midwest is completely dark. No communication, no coordination, presumably overrun. Each region makes its own decisions based on local conditions, which means there's no coordinated national strategy anymore. America stops being one country responding to a crisis and becomes a dozen separate territories trying different approaches. E pluribus, oh wait, not anymore. Some regions attempt scorched earth tactics. Military units bomb infected urban centers to eliminate massive zombie concentrations. This works tactically. Lots of zombies die. It also kills thousands of uninfected survivors who were trapped in those cities. Because evacuation failed. It's a desperate calculation. Sacrifice some to maybe save others. History will judge whether they were right. If there's anyone left to write that history, other regions go full fortress mode. Lock down state borders. Shoot anyone trying to cross, infected or not. Create isolated zones that might survive even if everywhere else falls. This creates warfare between states as refugees try to reach safety, and border states use lethal force to keep them out. American citizens shooting other American citizens at state lines because one side is trying to survive and the other side is trying not to be overrun. The founding fathers would be confused. Month 1 to 2. The government exists in name only. There are surviving officials in bunkers making decisions. There are remaining military units following the last orders they received, but there's no functional government in any meaningful sense. No infrastructure, no services, no response capability beyond whatever. Isolated military units still have ammunition and cohesion, Surviving government presence consolidates around military installations that can defend themselves. These become mini-states: military rule, martial law, rationed resources, shoot-on-sight perimeters for anyone not already inside. If you're not inside when they lock down, you're never getting in. They're not accepting refugees, because refugees mean more mouths to feed and potential infection vectors. The president may still be alive in some bunker somewhere. Congress may be evacuated to secure locations, but they're not governing. They're surviving. Their orders don't reach anyone. Their decisions don't change anything on the ground. They're ghosts of authority with no actual power to implement anything. Government has become theoretical. It's very philosophical, also very dead. Here's the truth about government response to zombies. It doesn't save you. It delays collapse by days, maybe weeks, while creating new dangers through incompetence, conflicting orders, and protocols designed for threats that follow rules. The survivors aren't the ones who followed official guidance. They're the ones who recognized government response would fail and made their own decisions immediately. They left cities before evacuation orders created gridlock. They avoided quarantine zones that became infected death traps. They ignored shelter-in-place orders that trapped people in collapsing infrastructure. Government response to zombies is a case study in institutional failure. Too slow to contain exponential threats. Too rigid to adapt to unprecedented scenarios. Too dependent on personnel who abandon posts when survival instincts override duty. The apparatus designed to protect citizens becomes a hazard that kills through incompetence faster than malice ever could. If the dead start walking, don't wait for government response. Don't trust official guidance. Don't report to designated safe zones. The institutions you've relied on your entire life become obsolete within days, and following their instructions kills you while they figure out what's happening. Your tax dollars at work. You just learned government response gets you killed. Here's your question. When official orders say, report to evacuation centers, but you know those centers are infected death traps, do you follow orders or trust your gut? Drop your answer below, then subscribe, because when institutions fail, individual judgment is all you've got. The government isn't coming to save you. It's collapsing right alongside everyone else. At least the collapse is bipartisan.